Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Morning Cello. It's good to see all of you again here on this. It's a beautiful morning here in Portland. It's a little overcast, not quite as hot as it has been. We were in like the 90s, low and mid 90s the last few days, so it's nice and hot. Today it seems like it's cooling off a little bit, which I much prefer the cool weather. Although Rosario loves the hot weather. Sorry to hear about your parents' condo, Melissa. I hope that they're doing okay. What was I saying? Oh yes, Rosario really enjoys the hot weather. She's sort of like, originally I'm from Indiana, and then my roots come from Scotland and Ireland, where they have, a bit more unpleasant weather. And her roots come from the Mediterranean, where it's hot and people have beautiful, beautiful bronze skin and water that you can see all the way down to the rocks below. And so we're just two different people, and we actually complement each other very well. So, but we have different tastes in weather. I like the weather where you need a sweater at the end of the night. Although when it's hot and then it's still like t-shirt weather at midnight, that's kind of fun. I just don't appreciate the hot part of the day. So, how's everybody doing today? Let us know where you're calling in from. Let us know where you're logging in from. Let us know where you're watching from. I'm a little, as usual, a little tired. But Yo-Yo got up at 4:30 this morning, so I've been awake for 4 hours. For many of you, it's like 8:30 is early. It's like 8:30 is like well into my day. So I was actually feeling so tired that I almost canceled Morning Cello, but Rosario, she forced me to do it, and I'm glad that I did. I'm always happy that I'm here. It's just like, because I was working in the studio, I had cleared up all my gear, so I had to like set up really fast and be here. But I'm here, and I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that it's going to happen today. But Yo-Yo, man, he's an early riser, and and there it is. Lots of California folks here today. I think we get lots of California folks every day. I was originally based in California, so I've got a pretty decent fan base there. Adam, watching from Bloomington, Indiana. Always typing the weirdest stuff, Adam. What else is going on? I'm just looking at the Appleton, Wisconsin. Hey, Becky, I've got a good buddy named Velvy Appleton. Maybe you're related. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just get started. Thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you soon. Oh, for you, I probably, for many of you who hear me give updates on this studio, you're probably like, I'm surprised it's not done yet. Me too, but I'm also not, I haven't hired anyone to help me work on it, so I've been doing it all on my own. And it's basically like building 2 rooms, because I had to build 2 walls and 2 sets of drywall and 2 ceilings. And so I've got 75% of the first ceiling done, and so I'll close that up today and then put the second ceiling on, and that's it. Then I just got to do doors and windows, floors and paint, and we're ready to rock and roll. The electrician comes in next Friday to get the rest of the wiring all put together, and then I gotta order some sound panels, and it's pretty much getting really close. And so I was using this thing called a sheetrock lift, a drywall lift. It's this big steel contraption that has a wheel on it that you can crank and put. It's for people who are putting really heavy sheets of drywall up by themselves. And I can't tell if it was easier or harder. The first time I put a piece of drywall on it, it almost fell through the window that we had installed, which is just like it would have been a pretty expensive mistake. It was like leaning towards the window, almost hit it, and I'm like also balancing like a 70-pound sheet of drywall, and I'm just screaming, no, no. And luckily it hit the wall, made a hole, and stopped. I can patch up the hole, but it was pretty. And then I kept banging my head on this giant steel frame of the drywall lift. So. Yeah, I can't tell if it was easier or harder. Probably easier. I also noticed that I've gotten quite a bit stronger since moving all this sheetrock around. I remember when I first got, because And anyways, when I first got this sheetrock that I was moving around, I'm like, I don't think I can do this. And then by the end, it was easier, but it's because I got stronger. So I've been putting on a little bit of muscle here, putting the studio together, which is fun. Feeling pretty strong. My hands feel especially strong, which is great. Anyways, that's enough of those stories. I'm gonna go ahead and get playing for you. that one will go on the album. That's actually an earlier composition from early in Morning Cello. It's maybe, I think maybe I played that in maybe in the first dozen episodes, and then I've repeated it since then. But I hadn't played it in a while, mainly because it's very sad. But I thought I'd open up with it. But that one is definitely going on the album, and maybe in a movie someday, hopefully. But actually, that felt really good to play. Sometimes there's a real difference, especially after quite literally hundreds of online concerts. Um, there's a little bit of a difference between these online performances, especially the more you do them, and being in person, And that felt like an in-person performance just now. It felt very emotional for me, which is how performing in front of people usually is. And yeah, anyways, I guess the long story long is that felt like a really nice performance. I don't know what to call that one. If anybody has name to recommend for that song, please type it there. I'm happy to take a look at it. Definitely movie worthy. Thanks, Anne. Also, anybody who was expecting something in the mail, they're in the mail. Who was Kathy? You probably you show up a little bit later, but Kathy King, your CD is in the mail. Alicia Guess, your mug is in the mail. And for everyone that was worried about Emma McPartlin over in the Netherlands, all of her things are in the mail. I actually included a few extra things because it took so long. So that should get there. I don't know how long it takes to send something across the Atlantic Ocean, and I packaged the heck out of it. So good luck opening that up. You'll need like a giant sword because I want to make sure that mug makes it across a plane, a boat. I'm not sure how it gets there. So. All right, I'm going to keep playing and stop talking about silly stuff. I'm trying to think if I have any good stories I can tell today. Oh, Kelly McD, glad that you could catch that one. Glad you could be here. that one might go on the CD too. I just came up with that. I was actually planning on playing another song using very similar settings on my effects pedal, um, and came up with that. That's pretty cool. It sounds very much kind of sounded like a song that might be like in a early 2000s or late 90s Batman movie. The one with the ones with Val Kilmer. Yeah, that's what it felt like it could have been in. Was that the Touched by a Rose? That song was, I think, in one of the Batmans. I don't know why I was thinking of that song while I was playing it, but yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I was thinking of adding some other instrumentation in there, which I'm going to be able to do. Yeah, that was cool. That was a cool little piece. Add some drums in there. Heck yeah. I got to figure out a way to do drums live. I should just play with a drummer. I would love to play with my friend Pam Delgado. She's an excellent drummer, but I think she's too cool to play with me. She's, her and her partner, Julianne, like, everyone wants to hang out with them. And so it's really hard to, they're friends with so many people. So they, it's not like they're not friends with you, but it's hard to get like a dinner date with them because they're just so popular. But she actually played, here's a story. So my second CD release for Coming Home, for Sorry, when I produced this huge event. We rented this big space in the worst part of town in San Francisco. In the worst part of town, San Francisco, like, you probably haven't seen anything quite like that unless you've been in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. It's like a third world country, and so that's the only place I could afford to rent. So we rented it, and it was a nonprofit, so they gave me a good deal. But I'd never performed the music before, ever. And it's music that I didn't really know that well because, it's before I went into the studio, their songs are, compositions that I had in my head. And then once we got in the studio, they turned into something different. And so that happens a lot. And so you have to, after you record your album, you have to actually learn how to perform the music. And so I barely had the music under my fingers. We didn't have a sound check. The sound guy never showed up to the last 30 minutes. So, and I never played with, I played with all these people before in other bands, but about a week before the show, I'm like, I need a band because there's so many parts that I don't know how to do it all on my own. So I asked my friend Monica Pasquale, BZ Lewis, Jesse Turner, and Pam Delgado to come do some parts with me. And so, and on top of not knowing the music, then I had to direct a band who also had never played this music. And probably they're good people. They were not taking it quite as seriously as me. But Pam was such a anchor, and she was always so focused. She knew how much the show meant to me, and she was just really there to hold down the drums. And so we rented a 5-foot diameter gong, this giant gong. Kim Ellis, there's a bad section of SF. Kim, do you live in the Bay? San Francisco is it's a very funky city. It's the richest people in the world and the poorest people in the country. It's just I won't even talk about it. It's disgusting, the things you will see. Stuff that I only saw in West Africa, the worst parts of Nigeria, you actually find here. So there's a street called 6th Street, and then a part of the San Francisco called the Tenderloin, and the whole section of the town is a bathroom, and there's just needles everywhere, and it's pretty bad. And that's why I did my CD release. And so all of my fans they wouldn't open the doors till the end. And so, until like right before the show. And so all my fans were waiting this big long line with just like people harassing them, and it smelled and stuff. And, I asked my friends Nate and Nick from Indiana who live in the Bay I had to bring people to like watch the door. They didn't really know what they were getting into. And so they had to like wrestle people out of the door. It was a whole fiasco. Anyways, Pam, we got her this giant Brazilian drum that she wore around her neck. It's huge. It looked like a taiko drum. And then she played a 5-foot gong. It's huge. Every time she hit it, it was it's like the whole room shook. It was awesome. And so I would totally love to have her tour with me on percussion again. That was really fun. Long story long, I'm going to keep playing. It's a pretty good set today. It feels really nice to play. Kim, I totally understand your question. San Francisco is like the most expensive city in the country. People are like, "Oh my God, I can't believe San Francisco. That's the tech city." But yeah, there's a couple sections that are just like you're like, I cannot believe that I'm in the United States of America. It is crazy. Someone asked, "Is there a seedy part of Portland?" Downtown is pretty gnarly, all of it. It's like a tent city, kind of all down the sidewalks, and people are like, "Well, what do we do about it?" It's kind of it's a really difficult. You can't just fix a homelessness problem. It usually has to do with a much deeper, larger issue societally, and until we deal with that, homelessness will still continue to persist in Portland and San Francisco and around the country. And so we're sorry, because my wife studies trauma and the effects that it has on human beings, and I've had a couple of. It's funny. I met my wife. When I met my wife, I was kind of traumatized, and I didn't really know that. And so since then, I've done a bunch of therapy and a bunch of other stuff to kind of figure out where my issues were coming from. And now, we work with people, and we hear stories, and after studying a little bit and reading, most issues come from children not being taken very good care of, right? It's difficult to approach the world if you were raised in violence or poverty. Typically, those people have lots of intense amounts of trauma, and so until we fix issues of poverty and racism, inequality, the end product as human beings who are traumatized grow older, it's difficult for them to fit in society because they're just so traumatized. And so until we start taking it from the very beginning of making it our priority to make healthy human beings, everyone in the country, a healthy human being, then problems like violence and homelessness and poverty will continue to exist. And so it's not like how do we fix the homelessness problem? It's like, well, you got to have a better country. You got to have a country that puts money towards making sure that all children are raised in a positive environment, and that's the answer. And so that isn't an issue that a city like Portland or San Francisco can take on. That's an issue that the nation needs to look at, and that we need to look at. Yes, that's true. That's true, Marie Taylor. That trauma does not always derive from poverty, etc. I agree. But when we have inequality and folks living in violent and impoverished conditions, that typically will be a large driver of traumatized individuals. And so it's difficult to it's difficult, especially when people don't have the resources to get help. We don't have a lot of resources even for mental health. We have Kaiser, and their mental health services are pretty abysmal. It's just funny that health insurance doesn't cover your mouth, your teeth, doesn't cover your eyes. Your eyes are also not a part of your body, and so is your brain. Your emotional health is apparently not a part of your body, and so a lot of times people have to pay out of pocket for mental health services, and that's just not right either. So not many people can afford a therapist at $120 an hour. It's so then how do we make a mental health accessible to all people? So anyways, yeah. Yes, Diane Rabison, I also agree that there's a serious lack of affordable housing, living wages, and affordable childcare. Exactly, you nailed that on the head. And so, yeah, I think affordable childcare is another part of it, right? How do we make sure that parents who are working are also taken care of, right? That they're working several jobs, and then also the primary caregivers for their children, and nobody else to help take care of them. And so that also creates difficult situations as well, which creates trauma and poverty. So yeah, I'm gonna play the cello. Oh, and Kathy King, your CD is in the mail. Hey, everybody. Thanks for all the nice comments. Just to remind everybody, if you weren't here this last Tuesday session, next week we are switching to a new schedule of once a week on Thursdays. And so this next Tuesday, we will not have morning cello. I'll make sure to post actually what I'll start doing is creating events again. I think up until morning cello 70, I created an event for every morning cello, which got, eventually I'm like, people are coming whether or not I create the event. And so I'll start making the event for Thursdays and make that a repeating thing so that everybody knows that there is morning cello on Thursday and not on Tuesdays. Only because we're gonna try for a little while. Just I really want to have the time to get the studio done, and if I start, if I have that extra, because I do, the morning cello takes about 2.5, 3 hours in terms of prep, setup, practice, all that stuff. So take down, and so I'll be using that time to just really get the studio running. And then once the studio is ready, I'll just have cameras and lights ready and set up. My plan was to have cameras and lights ready and set up down here, but as soon as I started working in the studio, there was too much dust to leave my equipment out. I did for a while, but then I was like, my gear's gonna just quit because there's so much dust inside of it. So plus I have to keep this guy healthy and okay. And but I'll try to start posting more content. What I'm trying not to do these days, I used to make a lot of promises and never follow through. And so, I was, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was very excited about to be streaming and, but the whole parenting during the pandemic and building a studio, doing crowdfunding, it all ended up being a little too much for me. And so there's a bunch of stuff that I said I was going to do that I didn't end up doing. So my new goal is not to promise things that I won't be doing. And so I don't know where I'm going with that, but try not to. The worst thing you can do is overpromise and underdeliver. I learned that working on a sales team. Although I wasn't the salesperson, I was the account manager who had to deal with a salesperson who was always over promising and under delivering. And then they're like, "Here, Josh, you fix it." I'm like, "We don't even do that. I don't know how to fix this." It's not my CD on its way. Yes, Kathy. Yeah, it's on your way. Buena suerte con la construcción del estudio. Gracias, Daisy. My Spanish is getting a little bit better. I'm trying to keep up with Yo-Yo, whose Spanish is really exploding. I mean, he understands everything in Spanish. So any Spanish speaker who speaks to Yo-Yo, he'll be like, "Oh, and go do the thing that you asked him to do." Like he really, really understands. And so his speaking, it's really hard for me to understand. It's hard enough to understand baby English, and then to understand, toddler English, and then for me to understand toddler Spanish is even more difficult. He just doesn't sound like anything, and then she's like, "Oh, he's saying, caballo, horse." And so anyways, he's just such a great little boy, and one of the reasons that I got really interested in I was talking about trauma and raising kids well is just having a child and just making sure that they they have the best life possible, especially the first 7 years of life. The brain is really developing, and those neural connections are forming, and to form those sort of permanent roadways in the brain in a positive way versus in a negative way. A lot of research has shown that that's kind of what makes or breaks a human being, is those first early years of those, basically your brain's highways. They can either be made really well or not made well, and there's lots of work you can do if you didn't get the best start, but folks that have a really positive, easy, loving, love-filled first 7 years of life, research shows that life might be a little bit easier. So and so that's what we're really trying to do. Our best is to give Yo-Yo the best life that we can. And I think it's working. He's growing up to be a really beautiful boy. He's really sensitive, and most 2-year-olds are like, mine. He if he's playing with a kid and they say mine, he just stops. He's like, "Oh, sure, here you go." He never says mine. He's never like he's really considerate, and and he cannot stand if he hears other kids crying. He actually covers his ear, and his ears, or he'll ask to be picked up, and he'll hug you the tightest he's ever hugged anyone. He's just like, I can't. He gets so upset when other people are upset. It's really kind of beautiful. So, yeah. All right, I'm gonna keep playing. Sometimes I tell stories because I don't have much to play. Plus, the first two songs were just really cool. I feel like after that, I'm like, what am I gonna play? I played such cool tunes at the beginning. Well, that's it, folks. Thank you so much for being here. It was a interesting session. I woke up early, 4:30 a.m. with my son Yo-Yo, and I really wanted to cancel because I was tired. But then I showed up and I kind of worked through some stuff with the cello, and I feel much better now. So I'm very glad that I was here. And it also shows the power of music and the power of being honest and the power of being willing to work through stuff in front of 70 people. So thank you for witnessing my therapy session here on the internet, and I'm glad that it worked out. So I just want to thank all you again for being here. A couple of announcements. I'll keep announcing this until it happens, but Rosario and I are doing a joint workshop later this month. I believe it's June 27th, but there's a link there in the comment section, and also a link in the actual this post. We will be doing an event with the Tamalpa Institute. It's a joint workshop called Be Moved. It's pretty similar to our workshop Somatic Sound Journey, only it will be paired up and in conjunction with the Tamalpa Institute. So it's a pretty powerful workshop, and the Tamalpa Institute is very powerful work that people do, and so I encourage you to be there for that. And Kathy, I'm sorry it's always on Sunday, but Rosario does her group sessions on Friday and Saturday, so the only day that she can do it is on Sunday. But maybe you can go to church service a couple extra times during the week to make up, and then come on Sunday. I don't think the good Lord would mind too much. It's good work that we're doing there, so hopefully you can make it. If not, we'll get you in one of these days. And that's it, I guess. This is a free show. It's also a listener and viewer supported show. If you'd like to make a contribution to support Morning Cello to help keep the lights on and the cameras rolling, you can do so through PayPal. It's paypal.me/Josh Tipjar, or at Venmo at Joshua McClain. Anything and everything helps. Also, feel free to join me on Patreon. I know that for all of you patrons, I have not... Yeah, that is one of those over-promising, under-delivering things, but I appreciate the support. That little bit of extra income I have every month actually really helps me, and so yeah. Okay, all right. Thank you so much. I'll catch you next Thursday. We're going to once a week next week, and I look forward to keeping you posted on the studio. I'll send I should finish the ceiling today, so I'll send a picture of the ceiling finished later today on Instagram and Facebook. Okay, thank you so much, and I'll check you next time. My name is Joshua McClain. This is Morning Cello, broadcast live from Portland, Oregon, and I'll see you on Thursday. Until then, take care, and bye.